Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on Restarting Your Digital Marketing, a tactical review of platforms. Today's webinar is the next in our Business Restart series, which is focused on providing small business owners with advice on reopening and growing your business in a post-COVID environment. I'm Mike Clem, a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County, and I'll be your host. Our presenters today are Susan Catalano and Robert Clark. More on Susan and Robert in just a minute. But first, let me provide you some brief information about SCORE. I get the next slide, please. SCORE is a nationwide organization including over 11,000 volunteers with more than 300 offices around the country providing free advice to small business owners. SCORE is part of the Small Business Administration. SCORE Fairfield County is comprised of more than 130 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. We offer three primary value-added services to small business owners. First of all, we provide free one-on-one counseling, which is all being provided in a remote capacity today, such as by email, telephone, Skype, etc. You can ask for such counseling if you go to our website at score.fairfieldcounty.org. Secondly, we also offer educational workshops and webinars, all provided today in the webinar format, and providing more than 150 programs annually. And finally, we provide extensive resources on our website, including a network of subject matter experts at your disposal. Our next webinar is tomorrow at 12 noon. The topic is Google Keyword Planning for SEO with Bob Zukowski presenting. Please look for the specifics and the register for this webinar on fairfieldcounty.score.org. Now let me provide you some useful information about today's event. We have set aside time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. If you have a question, please use the chat window at any time during the presentation. It is located in the lower part of your screen. Our webinar will end sharply at 1 p.m. to respect your time. The session is being recorded and the link to the recording will be available at fairfieldcounty.score.org within the next couple of days. It's now my pleasure to introduce our two speakers for today's webinar. Susan Catalano is Managing Partner of JQ LaCourte, LLC, a full-service consultancy providing comprehensive LinkedIn-based marketing, business development, and employee advocacy programs for businesses and organizations. Robert Clark is Managing Principal of Lucid Point, a boutique online marketing firm providing email marketing and marketing automation programs for businesses and organizations. Susan and Robert each have many years experience advising small businesses across many industries and several functional areas, including in particular in the digital marketing space that they will be speaking about today. I'll now turn it over to Susan and Robert. It's all yours, guys.
Thank you, Mike, and welcome everyone to our webinar this morning. Just one little housekeeping piece and then I'll have Robert kick it off. Please, if you have questions and when you have questions, add them to the chat box and we will be sure to answer them at some point, I believe at the end, possibly during the presentation. Robert, do you want to add anything to that?
Nope, that's pretty much everything, Susan. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent news. All right, then why don't we get started?
All right, that sounds great. So welcome, good afternoon, folks. We have a lot of material here. So we are going to move along very quickly and make sure that we cover all of it. And it is being recorded, I understand, so you'll be able to get it for detail later. All right, so what are we going to cover today as advertised? How to market during the pandemic. That's an important factor. Marketing fundamentals for digital platforms. When to use each platform. How to select when and if you should use these platforms. Sort of how they work together and how to prioritize your efforts. How to select. What's the sequence in which you should start to do things for your business. Now let's talk about the natural business tendencies, or really personal tendencies, but business tendencies during a crisis. We have two diametrically opposed ways of looking at this, right? So on the left is a preservation, minimization of expenses, et cetera. Wait and see what happens before you do anything. On the right-hand side is a different way of looking at it. Maximize your potential return. That might be spending wisely. And then instead of waiting and seeing, making your move. And we're all in a competitive environment out there, right? We've got competition. And so if your competition has pulled back and is hunkered down, and you have the resources where you can do something, that's a great opportunity to make up some market, get some mileage in the market. And business history is filled with examples of this. And I'm going to go through just a couple of them quickly. And the first one is actually from the Great Depression. Post cereals and Kellogg's were competitors back then. Breakfast cereals were a brand new category at the time. So there were a little bit of sales, but not a lot. And Post, when the Depression hit, Post did on the left, they pulled back, cut their advertising, cut their marketing, and they did a wait and see. Kellogg's, on the other hand, had just launched this brand new product called Rice Krispies. They took the opposite approach. They did a lot of radio advertising, and Kellogg's gained an advantage that they never lost, ever. Other examples from folks, and these are big companies, obviously, but brands that made a move. Kraft Miracle Whip was launched again during the Depression, and that became a premier brand for many, many years. And lastly, of our examples here is Netflix. Netflix, I think we've all heard of it. Very successful company, enormously successful company. They were launched right after, I think in 2001, right after the .com crash, when things were a mess out there in that environment. So they also have been very successful. And so they're, examples big. These are obviously all big. There are examples big and small. And we saw this personally, having gone through the 08-09 banking crisis and financial crisis. A lot of folks just buried their heads and, got into the foxhole to survive. And when they poked their heads out, they were behind. So if you can, keep on going. That's what our message is here. And so a favorite quote, this used to be hanging in one of my classrooms in high school, and I never knew where it came from, but experience is a hard teacher because you get the test first and the lesson afterwards. And it's by someone named Vernon Law, who is a baseball player. He won the Cy Young Award in 1960 for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's kind of like Yogi. He has Yogi Berra type quotes, but just like in a different sort of realm. Okay, so what's the lesson from what has happened in the past is always be marketing. So if you've stopped, restart, right? If you haven't started, then start now. And we expect SCORE is going to be busy. There will be a lot of new businesses coming out as people switch careers and they decide to take the plunge and figure out that they didn't have the security that they thought they had. And, they're going to take matters into their own hands. We've seen that before. We expect to see it again. And then once you get going, really just don't stop. You've got to do something. You've got to stay out there. The foxhole is no place for an entrepreneur or business owner. A couple of other things here, and then I'm going to switch the next one over to you, Susan. Internet use is up 40%. And that makes sense. That's all internet use, right? So we're doing a lot of streaming, a lot of Zoom calls, this kind of stuff. But the question is, and we don't know the answer yet, have the usage patterns changed for good? Permanently is a better way to phrase that. We don't know, right? Time will tell on that. But I think the message is, and the things that we want to say is, it's more important than ever to be marketing your business and be marketing it online, right? We've got more eyeballs online. It's a great opportunity to build your business and build your brand. All right, Susan, you ready? You got the next one.
I'm ready. I'm ready to roll. Okay, great. Pandemic marketing. So this first bullet is we always are recommending it's always about them, not you. So that means what's important to your customers, your ideal customers, your prospects, and always be speaking directly to them, not necessarily what you want them to know. So really be sensitive to what their needs are, their concerns, what they're looking for. Now more than ever, because we're all more sensitive. We're in obviously a very different state than many of us or have ever been in. So empathy first in your marketing, always. Show some selflessness, give more than ever. Your message should be consistent. You should certainly be reassuring, and very quick, short, concise, to the point is key if they're going to read anymore. Thank you, Robert, for adding that. I don't know if anyone's seen this, but this is quite telling, and I'm sure many of you were feeling this when you saw some emails that came in. Some brand we apparently gave an email to 3 or 4 years ago wants us to know they're here for us in this difficult time. Okay, very good. Let's move on to some fundamentals, online marketing fundamentals. We always like to include these pieces in here because any marketing program you do, you need to understand these components before you take the step or before you enhance some of your marketing. So understand your segments. Who are the people you are trying to get in front of? Who are the people that you want to purchase your products or your services? Understand who they are, and they're not all alike, which is the reason for the different colors in each one of these groupings. Again, as we mentioned in a slide before, it's not about you, it's all about them. What's important to them? What do they want to know about your product and how your services, how that can help them and why they should purchase them? It's a process, it's not one and done. So marketing is ongoing. It's not just sending one email out or doing one post. It's a regular initiative. In order for this to work, we need to have multiple touch points, which I know we're going to talk about in a couple occasions. Okay, let's move on. Oh, Robert, you could take this. This is absolutely your favorite slide.
It is. Thank you, Susan. How did you know it was my favorite slide?
I could just tell by your usual enthusiasm.
I see.
It.
Right. So thank you. So, right, it's very important to understand that you have segments and they need to be spoken to differently. It's all distinctly is probably a better way to phrase that. And it's important to know that your customers always go through a buying cycle. They're always in a cycle. As they find out about your business, your products or services, they become interested and they move towards the decision and take the final action, right? So marketers love acronyms or mnemonics, and here we have one, AIDA. I think we learned that the second week in Marketing 101 class. AIDA, right? So the image on the right-hand side, that's a screenshot from a very famous movie about selling, which was Glenn Ross, and I think everybody remembers well, if you've seen it, you remember Alec Baldwin with the ABC, always be closing. But I did want to point out that the AIDA is also there, right? So customers are always going through a buying cycle. So not only do you have reds and purples and yellows as far as people are concerned, those folks may be inside of each group. They may be in different places in this buying cycle. Some may have just found out about you. Some are getting closer to making a decision. So your marketing messaging needs to cover all of those possibilities. Now, if you're just starting out, it's easier. Everybody, you need to make yourself known. So it's the attention piece. But once you're doing this for a while, you have to keep this in mind. All right. And so we're going to go to the next one. And Susan, this is your favorite slide.
Yeah, that's very true. Let's go. So number one aspect of human behavior today, if you could click that, and that's around attention spans. Our human attention spans have decreased markedly in the last 15 years. And this is from 2000 to 2015 difference. My guess is in 2020, it's even less. Our attention span went from 12 seconds to 8.5 seconds. And the main reason, as you probably surmised, is Because we are and have digital overload. We're cluttered with messages all the time. And if something doesn't get our attention right away, we move on to the next. So our attention spans are much shorter.
Plus, everybody's really distracted now too, right?
Even more so, yes, exactly. And so anybody want to guess what the attention span may be of a goldfish?
Well, I think
Robert, I might ask you, what do you
yeah,
think?
I think everybody else is probably muted per instruction. So it's going to be up to me to guess. Let's see, a goldfish, huh? Well, I can't imagine a goldfish has much of an attention span at all. I mean, it's just a goldfish. What does it have to look at?
Oh,
Is
we
that
have
right?
somebody in the chat. We have a panel. Someone said 4 seconds.
I see. Rocky says 4 seconds. Well, let's see what the answer is, shall we, Sue?
Yep, sounds good. 9 seconds. So
Wow.
our goldfish attention span is longer than it is for humans. And isn't that something? All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Also, I'm going to do this one around touch points. Again, another marketing fundamental piece is we need to have multiple touch points with our prospects, our clients, for them to feel comfortable, feel trust, so that they trust us, so they know who we are, and they're starting to realize that we exist out there. And back in direct mail days, 5 touch points was the standard that you needed to accomplish all those components, as I mentioned. Back in 2016, Google did a search and we needed 10 touch points. Last year, as you can see, it's gone up to 18.2 touch points. So this could be social posts, this could be emails, it could be a billboard, depending on what's the most relevant for you and your business to capture the people, to get this right set of eyes to see your information. So online clutter means you need to have even more touch points with your prospects and clients than ever before. All right, let's move on. And Robert, you want to take it from here?
Sure, I'll do this next batch. So the 3 most important, by the way, if anybody's been to any of our presentations before or webinars, you should recognize some of these because these are fundamentals. They're always important, no matter what kind of marketing you're doing, and online marketing as well. So the 3 most important things in online marketing: content, 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 right? It's not the platform per se. It's not, it's not Google per se. It's what are you putting out there? And the reason is because that's what people are reacting to, right? It is the message. It's not the medium. To flip around the famous quotation. So what do you do? Let's talk about some things, or really the kind of the easiest thing or the most important thing about content, right? And that is matching your content to what people are already thinking about. So again, we've received a lot of COVID-19 emails, and we see posts about it, etc. We're drawn to that clearly because we're all thinking about it, right? So a lot of people are thinking about that. In general, we term this concept, marketers term it as seasonality, right? And there's sometimes it's quite literally the seasons that drive what we're thinking about. It makes sense, right? It's one of the predominant things that we all have to deal with. So seasonality is really important. The other thing that's really important is to map out your content in advance, is to think it through and try and figure out what you want to talk about. All right. And so we have a calendar here, as you can see, and we're going to ask some questions. And Susan, I think you're going to give the answers to these.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready for answers.
All right.
To provide
So
answers.
And what would be the things that we're thinking about in general, broadly, consumer type stuff in June?
Yeah, so normally in June, there are graduations, as well as Father's Day we celebrate.
Wow, that's correct. It's almost as if you knew the answers in advance, but let's try the next one because that was too easy. What about August? What are we thinking about in August?
Back to school. I think it's back to school.
You're right. It is back to school. And what about October? How about October? Let's move off the summer months into the fall. What are we thinking about here?
Halloween is a common
Oh boy,
holiday that we think about
you
during
are
that time.
absolutely correct. So the key thing is if people are already thinking about these things anyway. So if you can tie your content, or if you can add to your messaging something that relates to the seasons, you have a better chance of cutting through that clutter, right? Your better chance of your messaging or your content to stand out. So the other thing I want to mention, and by the way, once you get into November, it's pumpkin, or I don't know, maybe it's October, pumpkin spice. So everybody's aware of pumpkin spice. The other thing I want to mention is that even though we're in these uncertain pandemic kind of times, right, these things are still going to happen. They may happen differently. They may not happen to the same extent, or they may happen to a different extent, but they're still going to happen, right? So Father's Day is Father's Day. Halloween is Halloween. It's all going to happen. Back to school is going to be different, but depends on your business, obviously, if you can figure out how to tie your messaging to the things that other people are thinking about, your messaging is going to go a lot further, because you're going to have a lot of content that you're going to need to develop, and this helps you organize it and actually makes it easier for you. All right. So in sum, Susan, why don't you do the sum?
Sure. In sum, your content, your messaging, what do we need to do? Certainly distinguish yourself in all your messaging. It has to be crystal clear messaging because of our shorter attention spans. And then this third point, obviously, is just a summary from our pandemic important components. Speak directly to the segment. We didn't really talk too much about this one, but it's a good point to mention it here. People love video, we love images, and certainly include it in all your messaging. And if you do include a video, you need to capture people's attention in the first 8 seconds. And certainly have a multi-touch strategy. And we'll get into where you should have those multi-touch strategies on which platforms next, is what we're getting into the next pieces. All right, social media platforms. I think I'm doing these
I think you are.
now. Okay, good. All right, so let's move on to some of the social media platforms. Which ones may be right for a business, right? Which social media platform is right for a business? Well, you may want to think about LinkedIn if you're targeting business professionals, B2B, business to business. Facebook and Instagram are great platforms to target consumers. Email absolutely is a great place to nurture, educate, inform both B2B, business to consumer, as well as B2B. And text marketing, we're going to get into that, may be applicable for both. It depends on your business, and we'll get into some more detail around that as the presentation proceeds. All right, let's move on. So now, which social media platform is right for your business? These are some things you should consider before you choose any of the platforms that are out there. Well, you want to first check to see, well, are your customers are on it? Those are the primary buyers. If your customers are on the platform, then it's a great place to be, and that should be a priority choice for you. Another consideration is, are your influencers on those platforms? Now, these are the secondary buyers. They don't actually pay for your products or services, but they influence the buying decision. So it might, if you owned a home care agency, for example, the adult children of the actual direct buyers would influence the person that was purchasing that caregiving, if you will. Okay. Are your referral sources on it? So these are people that refer business to you. So if you're a financial advisor and accountants are great referral sources for you, you would want to be on the platforms where those folks are, as an example. Your suppliers. Are your suppliers on that particular platform? Suppliers also is another consideration. And it's a great place to get content from your suppliers, that is a good place for you to share that. And also, it's a great place to do market research. In fact, it's a very inexpensive place to do market research because you could just see what your competitors are doing, other similar small businesses are doing in another region, another geographic area as well. Okay. Anything else on this slide? Oh, and can you target new prospects, right? So that's always something to consider when with a platform. Is a great place to target new prospects. A great way to do that is one way is certainly, does it have the ability to advertise, and could you target them there? The last thing to keep in mind is most of us know that we are searching for businesses, services, products, things that we want to purchase on Google. But it turns out that 50% of our searches are happening on Google and the other are happening on social. So it's really important to be on these platforms where people are going to be searching for the kinds of services that you and goods that you provide.
And so,
all right, yes.
Yeah, I just want to jump in here before we move off this slide. So we've in the past called this the money slide, right? So if you're trying to figure out which social media platform should you be on, doesn't matter if it's Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat or anything, LinkedIn, of course, run down this list, right? So because you're going to have to prioritize, and we're going to mention prioritization at the end here, but you don't want to, you probably don't need to be on every single one. And if you can't be on every single one, if you have some limitations or restrictions on how much time you can spend, et cetera, although there are tools that help you, just run down and prioritize it this way. So you may go through and figure out that, there's, Facebook, for example, if you're mostly business to business, Facebook really doesn't do as much for you as, say, LinkedIn would or some other platform would. So you're just going to prioritize Facebook at the bottom of your list, or you're not going to go there at all, and you're going to start your efforts somewhere else. So again, whatever, and even if you hear of a brand new one, so I don't know how many people are familiar with TikTok, or there'll be another one coming out soon. If you're not sure, just run through this list and you'll determine whether or not it makes sense for you. And one last thing, as you look at a platform, don't dismiss it forever, because you may have to go back as the use of the platform changes. You may have to go back and reconsider it. So you kind of always have to have your ear to the ground a little bit in this social media world. Okay, so let's go on to this one. Do you want to talk about this, Susan, or me?
Yeah, sure. I'll go quickly through some of these more popular platforms. So Facebook business page, right? What is it? It's built from, but different than your personal page. Personal page is for your personal business. You should have a separate business page if you're doing business and representing your company on Facebook. You should be posting text, links, photos, and videos. Absolutely. About 1 to 3 times per week is typically the standard. The demographics, consumers, it's ubiquitous. Everybody is on this in a big way. Okay, let's move on to also for your business page, a way to jumpstart your Facebook posting is certainly with advertising. This is correct with anyone. It's a great way to move quickly, very, very quickly, rather than just sticking to an organic model. It creates greater visibility as well as providing more direct placements. Okay. Let's move on to Instagram. Instagram business page, right? So what is this? It's a separate page just for your business. It's a great way to post images, headlines, hashtags, events for sure. Frequency is similar to Facebook, but certainly more images about a particular item makes the most sense. And Instagram has, in the last year, has grown in an amazing degree as well. So it's a great way for a B2C type of model.
And I do want to mention before we go to Twitter, I do want to mention that we put images, but that also means videos. So you can put videos on Facebook. You can put videos everywhere. And then we have a couple of video questions in the queue. And we'll get to those at the end.
Okay, Twitter for Business. We have, other than lately, I've seen a bit of a decline in Twitter over the last couple of years. But what is it? It's social conversation, and it's a great place for information sharing. The kinds of things you post are headline links, hashtags to news, articles. The frequency here, as you can see, is much higher than the other platforms. Could be up to 5 times per day, but it could even be more than that. Demographics are still younger, slightly more urban and educated. And I can't see the very last line of the demographics.
Higher income. They have a higher
Thank
income.
you. Yeah, thank you very much. And then if you could hit the slide, please.
Oh.
So there, it does seem to be that there's a significantly higher use on Twitter during this pandemic. It's probably news related, since all of us are reading the news more often, and the commentary around that. Is it a permanent shift? Who knows? We're going to all stay tuned to determine what does happen with this. And that's just a key learning point. These platforms don't stay the same. Robert intimated that, implied as soon as some come, some go, some change with segments that we need to, that are on them. So we need to be watching and being vigilant to see that progress and change as it does change. Okay, LinkedIn, let's move on. A couple of slides on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great marketing and business development tool for your business. It's not just for job seekers. It's great for job seekers, but using it just to find a job or to find people to work for your company is using it for a very small percentage of what the full potential of the platform is. Why would anyone want to use LinkedIn? Well, it's a trusted, serious, professional platform. It has over 675 million users. It has a quality audience. They're more educated, they're more employed, they're more affluent, they're decision makers, and they also have 2 times the buying power than your average web user. Lastly, it's a great way to precision target. You can target exactly your ideal prospects on there with first-party data. And the member mindset of the people that come to LinkedIn is very different than some of the other platforms. Because it's a trusted, serious platform, they come looking to do business, make good connections with people. There's nothing social about this. It's all about business. Okay, let's move on.
How best to use LinkedIn?
Yeah. Well,
Susan?
there are just 3 steps to being most successful on the platform. Step 1 is your LinkedIn presence, your profile page, your business company page. It should be search optimized. Those keywords and phrases that you want to be found on, you should include those on your pages on LinkedIn. Those are the locations that are very optimized. So putting those keywords and phrases there are a good place. Also should be client centric. Again, speak directly to your clients or referral sources, highlight your business benefits, relieve the pain points that your business and your services do. Use marketing and business development language, not resume language, unless you're looking for a job on the platform. Describe what makes you different or your firm different. We all know about the unique value proposition. That's where you include that. Consistent branding. Your branding, your background image on your company page or on your profile page should look like imagery around that you'll find on your website. And of course, it has to be a professional page. Look like you belong here because there's a very high expectation of a professional. It's a professional platform where professionals are. Okay, let's move on. So step 2 to being successful on LinkedIn is building your network, building your LinkedIn network of connections. So regularly send invitations. Who should you be targeting and whom should you be sending invitations to? Of course, first start with your clients and your customers. then go to your referral sources, influencers as well, and folks that are likely to be interested in your products and services. And so those are usually people that you don't know, and it's completely okay to reach out to those individuals in a professional manner. Okay, let's move on. And step 3 is sharing relevant content, right? Always be marketing, right? You're building your network now, share relevant content with these individuals so you're staying top of mind with them. You're educating them, you're nurturing them, you're informing them of your business and what you do and how you can help them. It's a great place to have a touch point. In fact, all these platforms are great places to have touch points to the right segments. Okay, so this is how we do it for our clients. That works really well, and we love to share this information with you. So in advance, we always identify topics that we want to communicate. So that whole content calendar that Robert talked about, the planning of content, well, we do that as well, of course. We identify the topics in advance. Let's keep on going. Then we actually either the client composes an article, we compose the article or the blog post. And when we do so, we ensure that each paragraph has a standalone thought, all related to the same topic, but a standalone thought. And the reason why we do that is because then each paragraph can become a separate post. So this is a very efficient way to write one article, but have multiple posts about this one particular article. Of course, the intro copy or the leading copy needs to be different. The image has to be different. The hashtags may need to be different, but it all can link to that same article on your website. All right, let's move on. You're up, Robert.
Okay, thanks, Susan. So,
Very welcome.
Keeps all those comments about content and how you do it for LinkedIn. That's the same for all the platforms, right? Just mapping out in advance. That's Susan pointed out, a very efficient way to develop content and utilize it on the social platforms. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about email and marketing automation, and we're going to talk about a couple of other texts in here as well. Quiz question, Susan, I guess you're going to answer it. What's the #1 app on smartphones?
That would be email.
What's the clue? The fact that we're in the email segment, or you just knew that?
I just knew it.
All right, there you go. That's right, email. More than half of all emails are opened on a mobile device. And why is email effective as an online marketing tool? And we actually I call it a social media tool. It's because people read it, right? Because people check their email all the time. They're checking it on their phones. If they're tied to a desk or a laptop, when they're off and they're with their phones, they're checking it. And I dare say, I don't know how many people are on this call right now. I dare say some of you have checked your emails while we've been in the middle of this webinar. I'm not heartbroken about that. I'm a realist when it comes to it. So, and the other thing is, it gets delivered. It's reliable, right? So that, email gets delivered 90+% of the time. And it's actually higher than that as the platforms that we use, whether it's Constant Contact or Emma or Robly or MailChimp, it's generally higher. It's in the high 90s. Now, it may go into, the commercial, the commercial tab in Gmail, or it might go into junk, but it does get delivered. That's the key. It does get there. Contrast that with Facebook posts. They tend to, because of the algorithm that's on all the social media platforms, we've heard of the algorithm where the platform tries to figure out what it is that you want to see based on what you've responded to in the past, then it filters out a lot of it, and really just 2% of the posts get to where they're going, unless, of course, you advertise, right? If you're going to pay Facebook to get your post in front of people, Facebook makes sure it gets delivered because they're all about that. So there are basically 2 types of email. So when we talk about email, we're talking about email marketing, right? So type #1 is a regular or a CRM generated email. It's transactional. it looks, it came from Outlook or Gmail, and it's this kind of text-based thing here. You might stick an image or something in there, but it's pretty straightforward, right? It's the detail of emails. And there's certainly, you're talking to somebody, you're communicating somebody back and forth about an order or the status or something. That's the type that you normally would send, right? So you have a relationship, you know them. But then there's a marketing email, and marketing emails are different, right? So if you think back to AIDA, awareness, interest, desire, and our decision and action. So marketing emails generally are in the A&I, right? They let you know, or they let the recipient know who you are and what you offer, and really you start to generate some interest in it. You can nurture folks really well with this platform. You can send out some flash messaging if suddenly your store's opening or you're doing outdoor dining or whatever it is that may not have been clear before. And it also, one of the attributes of this is that you provide a clear call to action. And so there's an example of, it's from JQ LaCourte. How about that? There's an example of it, right? So it's got its logo, the branding comes through, the colors are there. There's a clear call to action, that contact us today button. No question, what Susan is asking you to do is to reach out via the contact us button. And so marketing emails are short and sweet. They have a big image, and just look at the difference between the two of them. And by the way, they have to be formatted to work on a phone, to be on a mobile device. And you can see the difference between marketing and transactions. All right, so the bottom line here is, don't try to market yourself with a regular Gmail account or something else. The email marketing platforms, they're cheap. You can start at $20. You can even do a MailChimp for $0. Although we tend not to recommend that, because the key is you have to actually, remember we talked about consistently, you have to actually continue to do it. And so it not only doesn't need to be cheap, but it needs to be easy to use. And if you get frustrated with stuff, then you're not going to use it. So that's why we generally recommend Constant Contact. Still a very good choice. All right, so that's straight up email marketing. And these platforms have some simple email automation. You may have heard them referred to as autoresponders. This is a snip from Robley. And you can see we have E1, the first effort, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 efforts, and you can set them up. It's a series of emails that you set up to go at the copy's all predetermined, the timing is predetermined, and you can see here at the bottom, E1, if you can see my mouse, E1 is immediately, E2 is 4 days after somebody signs up, then 4 days later or 8 days after sign up, we send another one, and then 14 days, and then 20 days. So anybody signs up to get your emails, they get a pre-programmed series of emails that go out. Again, great for awareness, right? They're aware they signed up. It's great for interest and and nurturing. And presumably somebody has signed up based on a specific interest, whether they came into the store or you saw them at a trade show, or they came in through a landing page. And I know there's a landing page question in the chat. They came in through a landing page or a form fill on your website. Have them check a box about which of your services they're interested in, and then send them very specific emails with an autoresponder. It's a great way to market and stay in front of people. And you set it up once and just let it run for everybody who signs up. And you can see here, you've got all sorts of metrics in here: how many sent, how many opened, etc. That's typical of an email marketing platform. Then we can get to true marketing automation, which is really, kind of up the ladder in sophistication, and it's up the ladder in cost. Rare is the brand new business that needs to start out. I mean, unless you're venture capital funded and you're starting out with 15 people and you've got to keep track of 10 salespeople or something. You can get some simple ones that help you track things, but if you start to use this, I mean, you've got to spend a lot of time paying attention to it. And we find that most small businesses really don't do that. They don't do that well. You might be a right personality type that was true to your day timer. I don't know if anybody out there remembers what a day timer was. Oh, I hear a chuckle. Was that you, Susan? Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So if you remember, if you can remember back that far,
Mhm.
um, the day timer required dedication. So if you were half dedicated to it, it just didn't work. So you really, but the marketing automation platforms have a lot of sophistication. It does a lot more. You can see the things they do over here, and it starts to do some CRM, customer relationship management, like a Salesforce does, or the Oracle product that does that. That's high-end stuff. But marketing automation really automates your funnel, your sales funnel, and helps you automatically qualify and get nurtured leads through it, but it just costs a little bit of money. And I'm going to answer one question here because we're right on topic with the emails before we go. And the question is, did I say MailChimp is not a good market, is not a good platform? No, MailChimp is an outstanding platform. Each platform, and we're partners for all the four that I mentioned, Constant Contact and Emma and Robly and MailChimp. Each one has a particular set of strengths. And it's my point is its cost should not be the driver, um, uh, because you have to be able to use it. Now, if MailChimp is particularly strong with integrations to other programs, to Zapier, for example, if you know what that is. I mean, we're not going to go into that here, but that's a Zapier is a way of automating things. And so Zapier has MailChimp have a lot of hooks that go back and forth and allow you to do a lot. But if you're just starting out, or if you're a small business and you haven't been marketing a lot, remember the title of this is, restart your marketing, which means that you stopped it. The implication, um, uh, we don't want you to stop. We want you to be able to keep on going. And so the point there was about simplicity. All right, let's keep moving along as the clock continues to tick here. Susan, you want to do this one?
You do these, I'm gonna do ORM.
Okay. So let's talk about a
But we
web.
do need to move along,
Yeah,
yeah.
we do.
Mhm.
So let's talk about a website, right? So I've got the question, is a website really necessary anymore? I'm on Facebook. It's like, the answer is yes, it is necessary. You want your website to have all these attributes. Your branding, it's got to be modern. If it's been a long time, get it refreshed. It has to be customer centric. You do want that contact form. That's going to help you out. Make sure it's designed for mobile. By now, everyone should have been converted to be mobile friendly, but Google will ding you big time if it's not. And then a tip here from one of our SEO partners is to have a COVID-19 page. Have a page on your website that specifically deals with your business and COVID-19 and your response, because that will help, again, in the current environment. That's obviously a timeliness thing. Google My Business is really important, right? So this is your chance to tell Google directly what you do. So the rest of it, we're going to start to switch over towards thinking about search engine optimization and, getting on the Google pages. Google has to infer quite a bit. They have to infer things from your website. They read it, but they don't know, they scan it, but they don't 100% believe it. They check on all your other social media. But Google My Business belongs to Google. So you tell them what you do, they validate certain things, and they use this quite a bit. So Google My Business, you can either go to Google My Business, just Google it, and you'll go to the page. Or if you Google your business name, and that's what I did here, you'll see it's in two places where, as the business owner, you get to edit your info. You can edit it here or edit your business information here. You can start to put some of your content in there. We started to talk a little bit about search engine optimization, or SEO, and what is it? When you optimize for the search engines, and by the search engines, we mean Google and Bing and Yahoo, but mostly Google we're talking about. It's so that you're found, right? So when somebody searches, you want your results to be there, because people are lazy and they don't, you could be on page 5, but whoever looks on page 5. So the first page of Google is really the only page that matters. And so your goal is to get there. And there are 3 sections on that first page, and it's called the Search Engine Results page, or SERP, S-E-R-P. You may hear that mentioned. It has an organic section, and that's organic search, meaning it just Google determines that your website is the right one. The local section, and that comes from Google My Business, and the paid section. So you can advertise on Google, as you know, with pay-per-click or other things, and they will put your things up front if you pay them. And these 3 sections, most people will look at it and they'll say, all right, if people there a couple times, that's good. They must be legit. I will consider them. And that's really what you're driving at. SEO, or particularly from Google's perspective, what they're looking for is how well does your entire web presence, not just your website, everything, answer the searcher's query, right? So Google's in the business of providing answers and selling ads, but providing correct answers. If Google starts putting up a bunch of stuff that doesn't really match, people will stop using Google My Business. So it's a combination of website plus Google My Business, and social posts are all the things that help you show up higher on the search engines. So the last thing with SEO, I think, the last thing with SEO here is there's some stuff you could do yourself, but there's a lot of stuff and there are a lot of nuances that where it really makes sense to hire an expert, all right, to work with an expert to do this. Google changes the rules. There are some things you need to do sort of underneath the hood on your website, and maybe your web developer can do that for you. But if you make your own website on Squarespace or even on WordPress, you probably won't know exactly what to do, and you're going to need a little expertise to make sure you get this right. It's really important. So next up is online reputation management, and Susan, this part's up to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about online reputation management and the importance and best practices around that. As you can see, this is from Robert's review on Google.
Yep.
Thank you. And 5 out of 5 from his Facebook. And also you could see that if people are reviewing you on Google as well. This is very important, obviously, to have a very positive online review. And here's why, the stats. 86% of consumers are reading reviews for local businesses, and much higher for aged 18 to 34%, the percentages. Consumers read an average of 10 online reviews before they're feeling able to trust a business to buy from that business. And lastly, on this slide anyway, 40% of the consumers only consider reviews, can you go back? Only consider reviews written within the last 2 weeks. So they don't typically go further than that. So those being up to date on those are really important. And now that percentage is even higher. It's 18% higher than last year. So it gives you a short understanding the importance of these reviews. Okay, next page, and that is 57% of the consumers will only use a business that has 4 or more stars. 80% of the 18 to 34-year-olds have written online reviews, and 41% over 55. Last one here on the stats, 91% of 18 to 34-year-olds will trust online reviews as much as a personal recommendation. That is very different for the older generations, the way in which many of us thought about things. Okay, let's move on. And Robert, why don't you take these 2 slides?
Sure. So according to Harvard, the Harvard Business School, maybe you've heard of them, they're not bad. They did a study, and if you can increase your star rating on Yelp, that translated to an increase of 5 to 9%. And so you've probably all seen the star ratings. You know, it's on a scale 1 to 5, and when people write reviews, they're asked that you give a ranking, and then that's key, right? So you want to keep your star rating high. So what do you have to do to increase your star average, right? So make sure your star average is up there. So the number that seems to be the right one is 4.5 stars. If you get enough information, enough reviews out there, people tend to be happy with 4.5 because we all kind of understand there's going to be some folks that complain and they give a crummy rating when maybe that's not really relevant. It's more about them than about you. If you have 3.5 as a star rating, then you've got to work to get it up there. But just suppose you start out with one star review, then you're going to need 7 5-star reviews to get your average up. So this is about math. It's actually algebra, but it's about math. You want to make sure that you're asking for and you're getting as many high reviews as possible, because those bad reviews are kind of inevitable. They're going to pop up. And if you want to be ahead of the math on this one than behind. So you'd rather have 7 5-star reviews sitting there when that 1-star review comes in, so you stay above 4.5, versus not paying any attention to it. You got a 1-star review. Now you've got to work to get it up to where it needs to be. Me too, Susan?
I don't mind doing these because
Okay.
I want to leave time. I really want to leave time
Yep.
for a couple of questions, and we only have 5 minutes
Okay.
left. So I don't mind doing these quickly. What do we want to do about a bad review? Bad reviews are going to happen. And if they do, it's very key to respond to them promptly. These are the pieces that you need to include when responding promptly. And this is within 1 to 2 business days. Tactfully promote positive image, acknowledge the issue and apologize, convey that this is rare, include some of your company's strengths. Add this is a key piece, number 5, leave a sincere, thought out public comment, and then take the discussion offline. Very important. You need, when communicating with the reviewer, rather be authentic and personal, no canned responses, sincere, use real names. Hi, this is Susan, Director of Customer Service. Sorry about the problem you had. Include your business title and role, as well as contact information. When an issue is resolved, go back and indicate that it has been. And the key reason is we're all reading these. We are looking for what the company's response is going to be. So please be sure to include it. Okay? Never be defensive, ignore it, get into an online battle, or post fake positive reviews. Okay? So some steps to take. What steps should your company take in general? Claim your listings, proactively solicit good reviews, use the star math, as Robert indicated, to help improve your scores if necessary. Monitor the sites where you are being rated, incredibly important. And consider outsourcing this reputation management function. It's just easier to have a reputable company do this and stay on top of it for you because we're busy owners doing other things. Okay?
Yep. And so before we switch to text marketing, so on the ORM piece is really important. And we get the questions like, do I really have to deal with a bad review? And the answer is only if you have enough business that you don't need anymore, because bad reviews out there will really start to crush you. So marketing by text, I think we've interacted with texts. We have folks who use texts to communicate with us. This is really, really interesting. You can acquire contacts, and you can certainly do it by having these keywords. And we've seen that send offer to text number 35724, and you get on their list. So you can use text marketing to acquire your contacts. You can use it to engage your audience, right? So once you've got them, you can send communications to them. And the benefit with text is people really look at them and watch them. All right. So, but be absolutely certain you have permission to do it. Be absolutely certain that people know you may text them, even if it's for customer service, because people view their phones as like personal extensions of themselves, and they will respond very poorly if you start springing stuff on them. So if we're going to offer to prioritize, and here we go, Mike, final slide before the question slide or your wrap up. If we're going to tell you how to prioritize this, number one, get a website and do Google My Business. That's number one. Number two, do social media with your where that has the most prospective customers on it, right? So if they're on LinkedIn, do LinkedIn, save Facebook or Twitter for later. Generate content and post, that's really important. Manage your reputation online, particularly for consumer-oriented businesses. You got a store or something. Capture names and start emailing. Capture them through your website, capture them in the store, capture them at a trade show. Then go back and do your active SEO, meaning have that outside expert manage stuff to make sure that your website starts to pop up a little higher. Think about advertising then, boosting content, etc. Once you start building some solid relationships, then think about text marketing. That's the slide on how we recommend you prioritize it. And Mike's gonna get me in a second here, and that's the end. Mike, thanks, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Susan and Robert. Unfortunately, we will not have time for any questions, but boy, you gave us a tremendous amount of information there. Thank you very much. So I want to respect people's time. We told you we'd wrap up at 1 o'clock, and so I'll just wrap it up here. Just want to remind you that a recording of this webinar and the materials will be available in a couple of days on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org. Next webinar will be tomorrow. Bob Zukowski will be going into a little more detail on Google keyword planning for SEO that Susan and Robert touched on here today. And again, SCORE offers free individual counseling, so please use either the link on the screen or go to our website at fairfieldcounty.score.org to request a mentor. We would love to help you with your business. Susan and Robert, thank you very much for today's webinar. And I hope everybody has a nice day. Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Welcome. Have a great day. Bye now.
Bye-bye.